Hello, Justin.
Hello, Keegan.
All right, this is the Food Web podcast. Welcome. The topic of discussion today is what exactly, Justin?
Yeah, today the topic is what is Food Web? What are we doing? How did we get here? And what are we trying to do?
Right, starting with our first app as well.
Yeah.
Right, so when did we get incorporated? When was that?
Yeah, so Food Web officially began in 2023 in the spring. I had the idea for Food Web and we pitched it to the Lab to Market Launch Accelerator through Dal Innovates at Dalhousie. We were accepted and got $15,000 in funding to get started, and that's what really kicked off the journey.
Right, and so then what have we been doing all that time? It's been 2.5 years since then, and we're recording this podcast in November of 2025. So what's been happening at Food Web for the last 2.5 years?
Yeah, so while we've been working on Food Web, I also was finishing my master's degree. So a bit of a side quest to go off and do that. I did my Master's of Management in Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Queen's. So that took quite a bit of my time over the last 1.5 years, but really equipped us with some extra, support we need to launch Food Web.
Right on. And so then let's talk about the launch of Food Web, and then we're going to go back in time to cover a bit about your story and what even got the seeds started, so to speak, what put you down this path. So the launch. What is the launch? What are we launching?
Yeah, so on December 8th is our grand launch of Food Web's kitchen rental platform. So this is a platform that connects underused kitchens with small food businesses. So think of it like Airbnb, but for kitchens. So it's a marketplace where a kitchen can list their space. So think of a cafe, they're closed at 5 p.m. every day of the week, and the kitchen's just empty in the evenings. At the same time, small food businesses are looking tirelessly for part-time rental kitchens. Because when food businesses are just getting off the ground, they often only need to rent a kitchen 1, 2, 3 days a week and aren't ready to sign their own full-time lease. And people find kitchens in churches, community centers, cafes, but finding those has been historically quite difficult. So, and that's something that I learned myself. I'll talk a little bit about my personal journey as a chef in a little bit, but we knew that finding a kitchen has been this historical challenge, but for me that light bulb moment was, but why? There's all these underused kitchens everywhere, so we set out to make it easier for the kitchens to be able to rent out their space without all the effort that it would typically take.
Yeah, and you started Food Web or founded the idea of Food Web with this idea of rental kitchens in mind. Food Web has since expanded in scope to what we think can be achieved in Food Web. What are those broader visions? Just touch on them, the guiding principles. Why does Food Web Kitchens? Why is that the first thing that then solves the greater vision?
Yeah, so the bigger vision is to provide observability and visibility into really all facets of the food system. So when I think of the food system, I think about food production, I think about food businesses, but I also think about all the support organizations, nonprofits, local governments that are all working to support local food. These organizations and stakeholders are often in their own little bubbles or their own little silos, and we want to make it easier for people to see who is doing what and where and when and how, and make it easier for people to just see what each other are doing. So that was the kind of grander vision. And asset mapping is becoming a bit of a buzzword in the food scene. Government folks, nonprofit folks are calling for this enhanced visibility. So Food Web, our official name of the company, is Food Web Asset Mapping. And we intend on mapping the food system. So that means providing up-to-date listings of who all the faces of food are. And the kitchen rental app emerged as the first offering because I'm a chef by trade and I have a lot of connections in that space. So it was something that I knew that challenge a bit more intimately than the bigger vision. So we decided to start there. But we see Food Web expanding into other offerings, such as supporting farmers sharing tractors or resources with one another, supporting delivery routes being enhanced. I hear often of food businesses struggling to find a delivery route to get one case of hot sauce from Wolfville into Halifax, right? It's not necessarily efficient to just drive one box at a time, yet there's empty trucks driving around. So how can we connect those people with one another? So that's a bit of the grand vision, but the kitchens was the thing that a lot of other people were calling for. And
I want to hone in on like what problems are we trying to solve? Like what did we identify as like what are we uncomfortable with? Like why are we entrepreneurs? Why are we doing food web at all? And for me, like the business is a success if we're a contributor to food security. If we increase food security and more people are fed at the end of the day, to me that's it's a bit of an intangible way to put it, because how do you exactly measure that? But the thesis behind the kitchen app, at least, is okay. This is going to strengthen local food infrastructure. How? Empty cafes that are closed on Mondays they're going to form a new revenue line, and then they're going to give a kitchen to a new food entrepreneur that's going to launch a product at the farmer's market. And so I asked a question earlier, what were we doing for the last 2.5 years? Well, one of the things we're doing is customer research. And like one of my favorite things to do on a Saturday in Halifax, Nova Scotia, is go to the Halifax Brewery Market. That's the first one I go to, then I'm off to the Seaport. But I like to talk to the vendors and hear their stories, to validate what you said and what you've told me and the vision that you've sold me, right? Because like, let's keep in mind, this is your idea and you've brought me into it in a lot of ways. For viewership, I'm the tech guy. I'm the tech arm of Justin. Justin's the foodie, and I'm his tech support, basically, right? Where was I going with this, Justin? Just that the problems that we're trying to solve is food security, and those are our intents and objectives. If we've done a good job with this business, then in theory we'll have less hungry people.
Absolutely. And when I think about food security, I think about going to the grocery store and having the shelves lined with locally made products. You know, in Nova Scotia, some estimates from the Ecology Action Centre, some research that was done a number of years ago estimates Nova Scotia has a 3 to 5 day food supply if trucks were to stop coming in from New Brunswick. That's scary, right? Often when we think about food security and the way the government calculates food security or food insecurity is proximity to a grocery store, and that's valid, you know, like is there a bus route that will take people to a grocery store? Can food be accessed? In some communities, there is no bus route that takes you to a grocery store. So that's kind of a classical definition of food insecurity, but I take it a step further saying how many days if the global supply chain were to be halted, which we've seen what happened with COVID, with the war in Ukraine, there was a big shock wave there across the food system, right? With what's happening with the US and the tariffs. So this is a real concern of, is the supply of food going to stay consistent? And right now, it's under 20% is Nova Scotians, the amount of food they eat that's actually produced in Nova Scotia. And dairy kind of inflates that number up. So I'm lactose intolerant, I don't eat a lot of dairy. So, you know, really it's, you know, in that like 10 to 15% of food consumed is actually produced and grown in Nova Scotia.
So that'd be a measurable thing that, like, if we see that number rise after instantiating the kitchen app and other applications that we have planned to grow the food economy, the local food economy, then in theory we'll see that number go up.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? And you know, a great example, anybody watching, if they know Cove Kombucha, Keegan and I both know the founder of that company, Ryan, and he started Cove Kombucha out of his mom's house. You know, he was making kombucha, selling it at the farmer's market. And then as he was scaling that company, you know, needing to find kitchens, needing to find production facilities, and he ended up being successful in getting that done. And now, you know, Cove Kombucha you can buy at Costco and Sobeys, and but that example I want to see accelerated. I want to see it be so much easier for somebody to say, I want to make my own hot sauce, or I want to make my own packaged cookie. You know, local food is, to me, more than the produce at the farmer's market, right? Vegetables are important. They're an important part of a balanced diet, But we also need those staples. We need those packaged materials also being produced locally. And just to put things in context of the challenge we're trying to solve here, in the spring, we got a grant to do a coast-to-coast outreach engagement tour. So we hosted 6 focus groups. We were in Cape Breton, in the Valley, in the Halifax area, Truro, and down in Yarmouth. And when I was down in Yarmouth, there was a city councillor who told me that there's people struggling to find kitchens that they can rent part-time. Even Yarmouth, small town, 7,000 people, their weekly weekend farmers market is bustling. It's a huge center point of the community, and there are small food businesses in the region that want to produce, but often struggle to find a rental kitchen. And at the same time, there's this beautiful new community center attached to a fire hall that just sits empty, that has a licensed commercial kitchen. And through speaking with the municipal councillors, they want to see that facility being used. It's tax dollars that went into this facility and it's just empty. But the problem is the nuance and time required to actually handle rental applications and screen users and collect their insurance documents and their permits is very time consuming. And currently, that's a burden for a lot of kitchens to be willing to do that, right? So yes, they could be making money by renting their kitchen, but they don't want to deal with all of the burden, and one of the people said, the people at that facility, they're firefighters, not property managers, right? And so the vision for FoodWeb is the property manager. Our platform and the service our platform provides facilitates all of that bureaucratic paperwork to just take the thinking and effort out of that equation and make it a lot easier to rent your space.
Beautifully put. So then next up, we can go back in time to contextualize everything that you just said here. Like, how does this all exist? Mm-hmm. Like, where did the inspiration for all of this come from?
Yeah, so let's go back to 2015 or 2016. I don't remember exactly, but I was living in Dartmouth, and my roommate at the time, Sarah, came home one day and said, "Hey, I want to start a farmer's market on campus." And I was like, "That sounds cool. Let's do it." So her and I embarked on this journey. I was a support. She did most of the heavy lifting there, but we registered a farmer's market. It was officially registered with the Department of Agriculture. Every week on campus at the NSCC Waterfront campus, we hosted a market, and we had some vegetable and fruit vendors, some artisanal vendors, and I took that as an opportunity to start my first official food business, which was called Muffin Man Enterprises. And I was selling some baked goods. And baked goods sold at markets are considered a low-risk food. There's Schedule A products and there's Schedule B products. Schedule B are low risk. So your baked goods, your jellies and jams, your pickles, and those you're actually allowed to make in your home kitchen and sell at a public market. So I didn't need a kitchen. I was just doing my thing. But then I started wanting to sell beyond the market. I was like, well, why not make a triple batch of brownies and sell them to some cafes? So there was a cafe called Blue Apples that I wanted to start selling some baked goods to. But as I was expanding into, retail distribution, that's when the health inspectors, want you to be making your products in a commercial kitchen. And I also wanted to expand beyond baked goods, right? Like I identify more as a chef than a baker, and I wanted to sell other things at the farmers markets. I wanted to make fresh prepared meals and sandwiches and all kinds of different things. So I needed a certified kitchen, but I only needed a kitchen one day a week. I want to sell at a Saturday market, so I want to rent a kitchen on a Thursday or Friday. And I got on the phone with cafes. I emailed churches. I, scoured through Google to find places that were closed in the evenings to say, "Hey, can I rent your kitchen?" And there was no easy answer. And speaking with other market vendors, like, "Hey, where are you renting a kitchen?" It's like, "Oh yeah, this church over here." But that church is already booked on the Friday, right? And I can't make my food too far in advance because it won't be fresh. So there was a lack of inventory of spaces available on a Thursday and Friday to make food for a Saturday market. So I just threw my hands in the air and gave up. I realized that there wasn't an option for me. Ended up going back to school, I went to Dalhousie and did a degree in sustainability. But it was in my second last year of my degree that I did an internship with Farmers Markets of Nova Scotia, which is a sector association for about 45 farmers markets across the province. And during that internship, I conducted interviews with about 15 managers of farmers markets from one end of Nova Scotia to the other. And the research question was, what are the barriers or speed bumps to growing the local food economy? And a lot of things emerged, but access to a part-time rental kitchen kept coming up. It wasn't just this problem in Halifax, it was a problem in Truro and Pictou and New Glasgow and Antigonish and Yarmouth and Bridgewater and Cape Breton, right? And it was like, oh, wow, like this is something that a lot of people are struggling with. And, you know, back to that big vision of, for us to be food secure, we want to see our grocery store shelves lined with locally made product, right? They need
more than ever.
Now more than ever. They need a place to get started, right? Somebody's like, if somebody wanted to start a food business, it's not impossible to just jump to big scale right away with an idea. It's been done, right? There are larger manufacturing plants to say, hey, here's a cookie recipe, make this for me. But that's not the story for everybody. A lot of people, you know, they're going to get started at the market. They're going to build their brand. So that internship showed me that this problem is persistent, and started talking to Keegan a little more about this. And then
big driving phrase in the early days was aggregate and index, which is exactly what the kitchen app is. Like, we're just indexing all the kitchens that have available space, and we're aggregating them, we're displaying them for you, and we're connecting renters with kitchen owners and taking out the complexity of managing that interaction yourself, right? So when I would go to farmers markets, people would say, well, I'd spent 4 hours last week, because I'm getting kicked out of my kitchen in 2 months. So I have to call people and negotiate and try to find a kitchen. It's like, can you imagine if finding a hotel or an Airbnb was like that? Right? It's not, right? You just, okay, Airbnb, that one's not available, I'll just go to the next one. And okay, that you find one that works for you, because there's a huge supply of available homes of other people. And so kitchens are in vast supply, cafes, fire halls, community centers, like you said. We're just hooking them up so that they can be tapped. Yeah, and when I think about the number of available kitchens, it's in the hundreds of thousands, right? It's just the fact that there hasn't been a streamlined system for these part-time rentals to happen. And if we look at bigger cities in Canada, you know, if I turn to Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, there are dedicated incubator facilities designed to be a shared kitchen, right? That's great. You know, more of those could be built. It'd be awesome. But with the cost of building now, you know, those bigger infrastructure projects, the time to build that was a decade ago, right? The cost of construction is huge. You know, Keegan and I, at the early days of FoodWeb, before we really pivoted to the app, we considered just building a shared kitchen. Like, let's just build a kitchen and have little cubicles. Maybe one kitchen has 4 kitchens inside. We explored an old school. We explored a shipping container. We explored just leasing property from someone who has a kitchen already built, and just, okay, can we lease it and make the whole rental agreement work with that?
Yeah. And it was going to cost, not including the cost of the equipment, just the renovations to be able to install the equipment was close to $100,000. So that's when we realized,
I've spoken to people who've done it too at the farmers market. They've gone that route and well, I didn't have any other options, and my life is about cooking, so I just foot the bill, and now I've got this kitchen.
Possible, you know, if you want to build your own kitchen, you know, that's great. Then it's yours. You own it. You know, you have
then you can rent it out on FoodWeb.
And these dedicated facilities, these incubator facilities, what I find is if you look to Toronto or Ottawa, you'll see places like this. But if you go an hour outside of that bigger city in a smaller rural town, you're still SOL, right? You're still what do you do? But when we look at how many facilities, even churches and faith buildings alone, in Canada, there's over 27,000 registered faith buildings. Right? How many of those have a kitchen? right? Like churches and faith buildings do public service, but many days of the week it's just empty. We have legions and fire halls and community centers. There's over 5,000 municipally owned community centers in Canada, and then many more that are privately run by nonprofits and things, right? We have tens of thousands of kitchens available that are just sitting empty while people are looking. So we decided that needs to be fixed.
Yes, we did. And so the platform is live right now. It's we're having a grand launch, of course, and we'll talk about why frame it that way. What is the grand launch? Why launch it grandly at all? But right now, as of today, you can go onto foodweb.network. By the time you listen to this, we've had our grand launch. And you can sign up as a renter or a kitchen owner. Let's talk about a couple of the features that we have today and then what's coming down the pipeline. Like what are the pieces of this app that build value for people? And like what have we heard subjectively from our customers and from the people that we've interviewed here, Justin?
Yeah, so let's start with the kitchen owners and operators side of the equation. One of the things we've done is streamline the process of everything they're going to need to consider and think about to rent their space. So if you're a kitchen owner or operator, the first thing to think about is what kind of availability do I have, right? Am I closed every day at 4 p.m.? Am I closed on Mondays or Tuesdays, right? Like what kind of availability? And then so what type of renter am I available for, right? If my availability is very sporadic and not consistent, that might not work for a food producer, but it might work for somebody who teaches cooking classes, right? There's all sorts of reasons people need to rent a kitchen. So we put forward a process for the kitchens to, when you sign up, you're prompted to consider all these things. You're also prompted to upload your permits, right? You have to have an active food establishment permit. But then if somebody else is going to be renting your kitchen, you need them to also sign a form that you've authorized them to use their kitchen for them to give to the health inspectors. That's something else that we also prompt in this process. So we've built an onboarding process to make sure that you crossed all your T's and you dotted all your I's. That way you don't have to manually think about all these steps. And we've eliminated the need to be emailing back and forth, because what we've heard through those farmers market visits, when we talk to people who have found a kitchen, the question is, how did you find it? And 9 times out of 10, it's been, oh man, it was a pain in the ass. Like I took weeks of back and forth, and so we've eliminated the need for all that back and forth by collecting everything you need all at once. So that way, once you're listed on FoodWeb, everything that the renter is going to need from you is already there. And then everything you need from the renter will be collected from them as well when they sign up for the platform.
Right on. So just streamlined onboarding for both the renter and the kitchen. So then once the renter and the kitchen are both on the platform, validated, the renter, they go to the kitchen page. They can check out the availability, see the schedule. They can see, okay, this kitchen has such and such equipment. That kitchen offers, long-term storage for frozen goods. Our goal here is to really catalog the kinds of kitchens that are out there, because there's many and they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And our thesis here is that there's a kitchen for you. So if you have specific needs, and like everyone in your area, the church, like they're not, you need a central place where you can search for this. This is a modern day platform. We're not reinventing any wheels here. We're just applying the same kind of advanced search that we like in other applications to kitchens.
Yeah, and to put that in context, we'll give an example. So during the focus groups we did this spring, we spoke with somebody who has been running a food business, who's rented 3 or 4 kitchens throughout the course of their food business career. And they expressed the frustration of, okay, they found a kitchen, but it wasn't until after a whole bunch of the back and forth that they realized, oh yeah, can I leave my equipment there? Is there storage space? No, there isn't. Okay, well, I need the kitchen, so I'm going to use it anyways, but that means the first 30 minutes of my booking and the last 30 minutes of my booking is just hauling everything in and out, right? They've expressed it'd be really nice if you could search is there storage available? And then that gets more nuanced, right? Is there dry storage? Is there refrigerated storage? Is there freezer storage? Is there equipment storage? These are all things that can and should be able to be searched for. And then there's also different types of equipment, right? So is there a deep fryer, right? Do you make samosas and you need a deep fryer? It'd be really great to be able to just search that and figure that's a simple yes or no before getting into all the other logistics and communication with the kitchen. So just like, whenever I book somewhere to stay, I always like there to be a hot tub, and you can search that on hotels.com or Airbnb or Expedia, right? And that's the type of search functionality we're bringing to the kitchen rental world.
Awesome. And then, so gearing up for the grand launch, what is the grand launch? I'll put a seed in here. On the day of the grand launch, there'll be kitchens available to rent. That's the thesis, at least. With respect to the grand launch, Justin, like how do you frame it? How do you view it? What are we doing here? What's on the grand launch day?
Yeah, so the grand launch is just setting a date, saying like, and we're calling it a grand launch because we're live. The platform is live, it's there. But the grand launch is we're live, we're big live. And it just gives us an opportunity to really hit the ground running with a lot more outreach and get a lot more kitchens on board and really accelerate this momentum. So today, as we're recording, we have 2 kitchens listed on the platform. In Halifax, the Brewery Farmers Market has their kitchen for rent during the week. And an ice cream shop in Dartmouth just signed up on the platform about a week and a half ago. So if you have a vegan business, their kitchen is plant-based only. But if there's a vegan business in Dartmouth looking for part-time kitchen rental access, check that out. And by our grand launch, we intend to have dozens of kitchens, and just populating that database.
Awesome. So in anticipation of that, if you are a kitchen owner, Justin and I are standing by day and night to receive your phone calls and your email addresses, or your emails rather. Go to foodweb.network and sign up as a kitchen. And doing so, you'll be on Justin and I's radar. We'll phone you, we'll call you. It's our goal to get you into the kitchen platform. We want your kitchen on our platform. We want you forming another revenue line with your unused kitchen space. It's important to us. So let's talk quickly here. No, not quickly, but just in general, let's talk about fees. This is a question that comes up a lot. Like, how does the model work, and why is the model the way it is? And we espouse ourselves to be in favor of transparency. So in the spirit of that, our fees are transparent. We're not going to take any fees on the side that we're not going to tell you about. So let's walk through that there, Justin.
Yeah. So with FoodWeb, there is no upfront cost for a kitchen to list on the platform. We take a percentage of the transaction fee after a booking and payment has taken place.
And I just want to full stop there, because the reason why that is the case is because we're incentivized to help you get renters through your kitchen. We don't make money unless you have renters renting your kitchen. So we will sit with you and make sure that your permits are up to date, and all your information, you're likely to succeed. Your profile looks good. Your kitchen page looks good. Your pictures look good. These are all important to having a successful rental in your kitchen. And so the incentives are aligned here. We don't make money unless you make money.
Yeah, and we don't want there to be an upfront barrier to list your space.
That is also super important.
Right? So, a community center in a rural town, I don't know if you're going to want to pay money upfront to maybe have somebody rent your space. There is a kitchen rental software that exists. That's an American-based company that's been around for a while. Doesn't have much presence in Canada or really Atlantic Canada at all. But their model is more, you pay $200 American per month to access the software that facilitates shared kitchen management. Which is a bit of a different model, right? And that model applies a little bit better to those dedicated places that I talked about. So in Toronto, if you have a giant incubator facility, it might make a little more sense to say, okay, we're in the business of shared kitchens. We're going to buy shared kitchens software. Makes a little bit more sense. Going into the Atlantic Canadian context where we're launching FoodWeb, it doesn't make as much sense. So we've built our model around only taking a booking fee, as we had just said.
Right. So the booking fee comes off of both sides, and with room on either side to have discounts in place. Like, it's important for Justin and I to make this business accessible, right? So renters, first and foremost, kitchens, they set the rate for their kitchen. They know their business and what it costs to operate the oven and the dishes and what have you, all the equipment, so they set the rate, and then the renter comes in and they may pay it. FoodWeb will take 12% off the kitchen and 3.25% off of the renter. And both of those numbers can go down. Given various, like, we want some room to run promotions. We need some room to give discounts. Those rates we think are fair. They cover our costs in terms of credit card processing. But at the end of the day, we want all of us to rise. We think that just by virtue of putting this interaction together, bringing kitchens and renters, we're all going to be wealthier. We're all going to have more food in our stomachs. But ideally, we're all wealthier. That we're creating new economic opportunity, and so that's very valuable for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. So what's next to cover here, Justin?
What's next? Oh my! Now it's go time. So it's get the word out there. If you know somebody that has a kitchen that's closed at a particular day or time of the week, consider sharing that space. Right? And I understand there's a lot of hesitation from kitchen owners to share their space, right? Ovens cost thousands of dollars. Some are finicky, right? There's worries about cross-contamination. There's getting the health inspectors involved. We've heard all sorts of reasons why somebody does not want to rent their kitchen, but we truly believe that FoodWeb and what we're offering and how we make it easier will alleviate all of those concerns. So
I can give an example there, Justin. Like, we give kitchens the ability and like maximum control over their kitchen, obviously. So I'll give you two examples of that. One, a kitchen owner can decide whether or not they require their renter to have insurance. It's not mandatory, but it's certainly recommended. And then two, the kitchen owner can require that the renter come to an orientation session. It's a 30-minute to 60-minute session at the start of the rental, and you show that person around your kitchen. And these two safeguards are just two examples of how the kitchen owner maintains control. The kitchen owner may also set things like cancellation policy, provide emergency numbers, contingency plans. All of this information is like, it's on the phone or the device of the renter. It's in their email inbox. It's in their text messages. We make sure that that information is broadcasted because communication is key here, right? A lot of the things that Justin just brought up in people doing this interaction themselves is just the communication between the renter and the kitchen is bumpy at best in the best of these relationships sometimes.
Yeah, and to add to that, we also have a rating feature built in. So, and this goes both ways, right? So often we hear from kitchen owners like, "Ooh, what if somebody leaves a mess in my kitchen?" Well, there's a security/cleaning deposit that you can put, so that way if somebody did leave a big mess, you can just hire a cleaner out of the security deposit. But we've also heard from the other side. I've heard of somebody who works for a nonprofit in Nova Scotia, and they were doing a fundraiser dinner. So, they called around and around and around, and they finally found a kitchen they could rent for their fundraiser dinner. And they show up to the kitchen, and it's a mess. It's like, I'm not comfortable, making food in this kitchen in this state. So I had to spend, an hour and a half cleaning and getting ready and moving things around. So it goes both ways. And there's a rating system there. So you can say, hey, like, this kitchen had all the equipment I needed, but, it wasn't up to my standard. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. That allows other people to maybe look past that kitchen, right? So the accountability goes both ways. Shared kitchens are there's inherent risk. There's inherent, and that's something that people have often asked me. It's like, how can you promise me that nobody will mess up my kitchen? It's like, I'm not going to lie to you and say I can promise you that.
Yeah, we can't promise that.
But we've done everything we can to facilitate this process to be as smooth as possible, open communication, visibility in all elements, and the accountability of things like ratings and security deposits. So that way you can have that extra degree of confidence to say, you know what? I am going to rent my kitchen because I don't have to hold all these things in my brain. The platform is taking care of this for me.
Epic. That might be a good place to end this one. So, in the interest of parting thoughts, do you have any parting thoughts? We can always cut this bit.
No, parting thoughts are just, support local, and it's really important time to put your money in the local food economy. More than ever, we need the local food economy to be alive and well. Start food businesses, become a farmer, make food for your friends when they're sick. We really need to work together here. We're in weird times, but together we can hold it all together.
Awesome, Justin. So go and like and follow us on Instagram and our socials. Justin, you're Justin at foodweb.network. I'm Keegan at foodweb.network. Our email inboxes are open. We are waiting here to onboard your kitchen and bootstrap your food business. Let's go.
Okay.